Hi, I'm Cassandra Stewart, and I'm going to do my classroom management for students with ASD presentation. So this is my personal beliefs on my classroom management. As a teacher, it's important to set up your classroom based on the needs and implications of your students that will be in your classroom for the year. I know at Tulsa Public Schools, we are told who will be in our classroom every year about the beginning of August, so that way we can read their IEPs. We have their BIPs and their FBAs from the previous year. We know what is happening in their behaviors, so we can set up the classroom based off of every set of their needs. As a teacher, we know to focus on the settings of how we will place everything in our classroom, focus on the students, that they will see everything. No matter where they're sitting, they can see their individual seatings, the group seating, the group settings, the visual strategies around the classrooms, the schedulings that they see. Don't place them just in one spot. You have them in multiple settings, their individual settings, where the teachers can also find them. But also where it's easy for the students to be able to see them and where they want to work. Walkthroughs are also important for the first day of school because you want to make sure that not only you can see them, but you want to make sure that when other people come into the classroom that they can see them. Other students, other parents, paras, other teachers if you're not there. Also a sub-plan is also important because you want to make sure that they can see and find everything that you're wanting. Classroom management, the expectations is periodically review the roles and procedures of the classroom with your students. It's important for them to understand not only what is happening in the classroom, but what you expect of them in the classroom. And sometimes you might need to change them up, and it is okay to get their input of what is expected or what they feel like is expected, because sometimes they may feel that things do need to change. The student and teacher should first discuss and then write group contracts, adapting accessible classroom rules and procedures by the end of the first week. The first week of school should be policy and procedures because students should know what it is expected in the classroom the first week of school, because in that way the teachers know what the students expect, the students know what the teacher expects, and that way everyone is on the same page. In order to give engagement in the classroom, make sure that you're always praising the entire class as frequent as possible. You can also engage and express certain students like, Jake, you did an amazing job today, or Susie, you did a great job on your numbers, but also make sure to say, Miss Stewart's class, you're doing phenomenal today. I think we're going to get an extra 3 minutes outside, and that always makes them feel better knowing that the whole class is doing a great job. But you should also use facial expressions to convey to the students that the misbehavior was not totally overlooked. So you always have this look. I know I have this look with my students, and they know that they've done something that they weren't supposed to do. And I can just look at them one time, and they'll know, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And they'll always come up to my desk, and they'll look and be like, Miss Stewart, what did I do wrong? Or can we talk about it? And I'll be like, can you give me 5 minutes, and we'll go out in the hall. And it always changes their whole dynamic because when it's discussed, it's changed, and we've moved on. So it's something that I think should always be dealt with at the first time. So some of the safe environments for our students that should always happen were some stuff that were listed in our classroom book that I absolutely love, and I've shared multiple times with other teachers in our classrooms at my school. Is the independent workstations, one-on-one or two-on-one work areas, sensory motor areas, structured play and recreational skills, small group area, and whole group area. These should be areas that are in your classroom the whole entire year, and you should make sure that they are always around. So the independent work areas is where students working on structured work tasks by themselves. They need guidance from time to time, but they need no verbal comments from completing the work task. You don't always have to go tell them, great job, Johnny, you did great. This is just something that they're expected to do, and there's nothing else to say or do. Tasks in this area should be related to the IEP objectives and should be easy to look at. Everything in this area, as you can see in the bins in my pictures, from A, B, C, D. So Johnny could be all reds, Susie Q can be all blues. And you can have these numbered by them. The students are always going to know, oh, Johnny's is all red, Susie's is all blue. So Johnny's going to know that days that he's only going to work on those. So it's going to be easier for him to master. And those are just going to be for him. They should be completed in a left to right manner. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Or a top to bottom. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And they should always be hands-on, as you can see in these activities. They're hands-on and they're always messing around with them. And it's not something that they're just reading and moving on. They're hands and they're very kinesthetic. The one-on-one or two-on-one work area is each student has their own work bin, as you can see. And their schedule should normally be placed right here or on this other side. Sometimes being placed right here is really great for them to see, so they're not having to turn their heads. It's right in front of them. They have limited distractions by the selected work area near the back wall or an area with limited visible distractions. So normally in the back of the classroom where the teacher can still see. Dividers for the work areas can be made. These areas are separate from the large group areas. Materials should always be ready and placed before the lesson begins. So the night before you go home, you make sure the lessons that you want them to do. So if you want them to do science in this one and math in this one, they're always in this one. IEP objectives and data should be reviewed with the classroom team before working with the student to make sure everyone is on the same page. So if you have a para and you want the para to work on them, but you know that they need help in the science, the para should be aware of what the objective and the goal is on the IEP. The sensory motor area is my favorite area. Space for the students to unwind to receive sensory input that they need to focus, calm themselves, or organize. The space might include activities or items, large therapy balls, tunnels, pillows, lotions, bubbles, sand tables, and brushes. So before you put lotions and bubbles into the area, make sure that there is no allergies or sensitivities to smells or to textures. But also because of COVID right now, we can't really have the large activity balls or the pillows or the sand tables. So it's really limiting things like having these little tunnel areas. The slides would be great right now because one kid can do it at a time for 5 minutes and then we could just clean that off. Something along these lines could kind of happen with a little trampoline to make it a little easier. So we just have to be really careful right now with COVID going on to make it a little easier. Structured play and recreational skills area. This would be a great area for students to meet in a smaller group area. I know most self-contained classrooms are about 10 students, so this would be a great area for about 3 or 4 to be working with a teacher or with a para. So this area is needed to meet the needs of your students. Each area should have a place to teach play skills or social skills. As you can see, there's jumping, so these could be like a physical education or a health area. I love the lights over here. You can do science and math up in there. These should emphasize on communication. Students should always take turns. They should be structured and planned and guided by the adults. Playtime is not break time, and they should be age appropriate games and toys. So obviously you don't want to have baby toys with middle schoolers and high schoolers because you don't want them to feel like they are babies, because they are not. But also remember to read up on teaching play skills to students with autism. Small group areas should be divided into smaller groups. That helps to tend to level their skills of concentration. Each center should have a purpose, so you should have a math, a reading, a language arts. They should have data kept in so that way we can keep that up in their IEPs, so we can continue to monitor them. All team members should be in the room when conducting small groups. Every para should be in there, and all the teachers should be in there if you have more than one. And if you have a group with 3 students, there should have 3 tables. So whenever that group moves to the next table, there should be 3 chairs. So here's an idea of like what a schedule would be in that classroom. So a teacher has independent and a group. So there's what the group blue is, blue, orange, and green. So you would have what group name it is, what teacher's going to be there. So just an idea. And then there's just a little idea of what the kids would be doing. Whole group area would be like your class. It should be an open area, obviously your whole entire classroom. Students should be seated, should have assigned seats because this helps with routine and structure for them. They should have a large bin so that way you know what you're doing and it's not throwing them on, because students with autism love routine. And then during your lesson, model what you want the students to do and how you want them to do it. So use a board or a clip-on whiteboard type thing right here, so that way the students, as kind of like this is right here, but have a smaller one on the table so students can see what you're wanting them to do. So some evidence of incentives, and I love this quote: every student can learn, just not on the same day or in the same way. So I absolutely love that, and it's something that I use in my classrooms all the time, because I tell my students not everybody is the same, and we're all a snowflake. So we all fall the same, we just fall differently. So some of my evidence of incentives are: delivering an evidence-based behavioral intervention with fidelity typically means that the teacher follows the structure of the program accurately and delivers the intervention in the way the developer intends. So standardized interventions are not sufficient for students with the most intensive needs. For those students, it's important to adapt the standardized interventions through database processing. So you want to make sure that every student is getting what they need to their needs. So you don't want a student that's in a wheelchair, you don't want their needs to be, oh, today you're going to learn how to run. You want to make sure that every need is met to what they're needing. So if a student is able to run, you're going to be like, oh, today you're going to get 3 extra minutes of running, or what you're wanting. To make the most appropriate adaptations, teachers should use student data to determine which ones are likely to have greater impact. So if a student's allergic to peanut butter, you don't want to say, tomorrow I'm going to bring in peanut butter cookies. You want to make sure that you're teaching them the right way. So I love classroom incentives. They're my favorite. So this is a good one that I love to use. Beat the teacher, class and student, or class and teacher. Sorry. So if the class can beat the teacher, after so many days, they get like a popsicle party or a movie day. And so my favorite with my 7th and 8th graders is they love movie day. So if they beat me all week long, Friday they get a movie day. They get to pick a movie. So some ones that I chose that they may like in an ASD room are star sticky notes, time in the Tinker box. I do also have a Tinker box or snack box in my classroom. Classroom coupons, wear the class slippers. I found that one and I thought it was quite interesting. I'm not sure about class slippers, but I guess if they were fun, you might want to wear them. Choose the class reading book for the day. I really liked that one. Extra points, an extra snack, or beat the teacher. So that was pretty awesome. Creating a safe environment. So some questions to consider is, you should always make sure that there's visual sense, auditory sense, touch and pressure, the smell, the taste, the balance, the space, who will use the space, and what the space will be used for. You should make sure every single one of those questions is answered in your classroom. But why is it so important to consider those? Is because relating to the senses, remember that people with autism can be either hypersensitive, which they have too much sensory information, or hyperosensitive. They have too little sensitive. They can also be both, but you have to make sure, like if the light bothers them too much, you have less light. So you just need to make sure that you know your students well enough that you're going to make sure that they're perfect in the classroom. I found this and I thought it was interesting. If you want to go back and read it, people with autism can be hypersensitive. Light, dark is essential for treating sleep problems. So I just included that on there if you wanted to read that. I thought it was pretty interesting. Using some BIPs and FBAs in the classroom. Why it's important. The first step in a BIP is to explain the child's challenging behavior. Replace behavior or behaviors that provide a logical alternative or challenging behaviors. But an FBA is a functional behavior assessment. It has 3 main outcomes: the observable and measurable identification of the events, and the functions of the behaviors appear. These are imperative when you have behaviors in your classroom, so that way you're able to monitor them better and you can figure out how to treat them. And there's some more great information on an FBA and a BIP and a reference guide, and the difference between the two. So here's just summarizing up what classroom management is, why we should have it, and why each school should adapt to it. So it's best for students to have a routine in their lives. It allows for safe space in the classroom, a positive learning environment. It's a safe place for students with ASD, and a better communication with parents outside of the classroom. And each school should adapt to it because students feel safe when they enter the classroom. Better communication with all the teachers in the building, not just those that teach special education. And the learning environment is more positive and rewarding. And those are some references I picked up with some of the pictures that I chose on there that I wanted to share with you guys. And that is my presentation, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you.